Welcome. Welcome to Sue's University of Life here on YouTube. It's the most beautiful morning here in New Zealand. It's 10 a.m. and I'm Sue Gaskell-Barlow. I have all sorts of titles, and the most important thing, if you've never been with me before, is to understand that I come from the University of Life, from experiences and with qualifications and life experiences and stories. And thousands of people have come to me, so I've been able to benefit from their experience. Primarily, I have the qualification of coach and international peer support, all sorts of a diploma in the mental health sector. These are bits of paper. You have to work jolly hard for them, not dismissing that. And along with that, my life's experiences. I have a business, Shoreway Slimming Clubs. I've been running them successfully for 50 years, and thousands of people have lost weight with my simple plan. All diets work. All diets work until you come off them. So as a coach, I coach and mentor people with all sorts of addictions, all sorts of issues, relationship-wise, and how we do that as a coach. And if you're still listening, welcome. This is an hour show. It's an hour of information, gold nuggets. If you are struggling, if you have issues around relationships with yourself, if you have problems at work, addictions, and any traumas you've been through, from experience, and I mean from personal experience, I really understand how hard our lives become. In our head, we have this chatterbox, my chatterbox, and I will talk from that place so that you can understand it's not a made-up story. So my chatterbox, my programming, what I've learned and believed in my mindset, bottom line is that when that voice gets noisy, really noisy, and I feel vulnerable, it's so strong that the voice is saying, and we all have voices, we all have a 24-hour clock that is constant, until you can learn to control it, be aware of it, and learn not to react to it. So far, so good. My voice in my head is constantly saying, it's your fault. It's all your fault. If people knew how bad and awful you were deep down, no one would ever speak to you. You're awful, you're wicked, you're bad. You can't be trusted. Critical, 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 and it's exhausting. So in 1991, which is now 2023, I had what was then called a nervous breakdown. And I went into therapy 3 times a week for nearly 2 years, and came away from that knowing that the voice in my head was telling me lies, that I had got a huge amount of work to do if I wanted to move forward. And I certainly did. So I began reading books. I went to a few different, they were counsellors then. And sometimes, especially one lady, I went to see her, beautiful soul. And she said, you don't need to come and see me or anybody else. You're onto it. I'll just recommend a book. And she recommended a TAC book. And it was about the child in us, the adult in us, and the parent in us. Those 3 stations are how we then would go through our lives. And I came away from there knowing that what she had told me was true, that there was an answer, and the only person who could find the truth was me. So that was absolutely wonderful. And as a result of that book alone, I made huge progress. Then Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. These are books that I would say to anybody that wants to understand why things aren't working. Why, yet again, do you fall out with that boyfriend, or you have a problem with your sister, or you have problems at work? What is going off? What's happening? And if you get to a place where you feel incredibly lost and you really don't know what to do, then again, this short time with me, and I do urge you to subscribe, ring the bell so that you can get my lives on a weekly basis and sometimes few-minute lives. Because if you feel that it's always somebody else's fault, and if it's not their fault, it's your fault, then you've been brought up in what is called the blame-shame game. So the blame, shame, control, punishment is all fear-based from a position of power, and it's all conditional. And, you know, it's the hardest thing, first and foremost, to understand. It's nobody else's fault. And if you blame yourself, that again is unhealthy, because it's not your fault. We've learned a language in the human condition, and the English language so many of us were brought up on was conditional, fear-based. Is this ringing a bell for you? Well, I've learned a new language. It's taken me time, and you have to be very patient with yourself. And then when you find out this language of love, which is unconditional within yourself, and that unconditional love comes from the soul, the spiritual energy that we were born with, every one of us, then we have to disconnect from the blame, shame, and then reconnect to this spiritual guide that guides us with love. And therefore we go through life feeling centered. From that point, we never have to blame ourselves for anything, and we never have to look for other people to validate who we are. And so, how can I explain that? I'm sitting here, I have this unconditional love within me. That's our center, it's our inheritance. Every one of us was born with that potential, unconditional love. And then slowly, by the time we're 7 years of age, we believe there's something wrong with us. We have to do as we're told so that nobody will leave us, nobody will not like us. We don't have to feel abandoned or rejected. And we go into opinions, good, bad, right, wrong. And so there's the two reference points. You can come from unconditional love, where you're in the moment, you're aware, you're logical, and you are your own best friend. And you learn to unravel all the programming, all the things that you have believed was who you were. If anybody's listening to this, and that would be absolutely wonderful, would you like to just say hi to me in the comments box? Ask me any questions you want to, and I will continue with my talk, whether anyone is here to engage with me or not. So today, I'm going to be talking about the inner child. I've just given you a brief glimpse of how you could actually ask yourself, who am I? Am I living my authentic life? Or am I in a programming that is dictated to by other people, and whether they like me or not, or by other people who control me, because I don't know how to take control of my own life, my choices, because I've given my power away to people and authority, because I don't know how to do any other. So these are really important questions. And if you have never been on one of my lives, then, and this is completely foreign to you, this is what I want you to ask yourself. What am I doing with my life? Am I happy? Does my happiness depend on what other people think of me? Why do I eat when I'm not hungry? Why do I say yes when I want to say no? Am I doing a job that I absolutely love? Is life fulfilling? I will put my website here so that if you're interested in being with me and following me, you will be able to get onto my website quite simply. I'm a one-man band, so I have to do this myself. Right, I'm hoping that that will go up on the board, and I'm hoping I've printed it properly. www.susuniversityoflife.nz, and I'll put that in front of me. And there we are. And at this moment, I can see I haven't got anybody with me live, and that's not an issue. I haven't got anyone live, and that means I'll continue my talk happily. Okay, that's a quarter of my show finished. If none of this is of interest to you, then I wish you so much love in the world. And if something has rung a bell, then it's worth thinking about listening to my talk now on inner child. What is the inner child? What does that phrase even mean? And so if you do watch me and you do see this live or recorded, then, and you want to get in touch, that's my website. And if you go onto my website, there's lots of different live videos. And if you go on my Facebook, Sue's University of Life, and ring the bell and join me, then I do Monday with Sue from New Zealand, every Monday, of course, 10 until 11. And you can visit the shop on the website and see if you want to join one of my groups. If you have a weight problem, if you want to lose weight and you want to learn how to have a new lifestyle, then I've been doing this for a long time. And I welcome you and recommend you join my the group on Sure Way, it's called, because you can learn why you eat when you're not hungry. You can learn how, whether you're all or nothing thinking, look at why you binge eat, why you go to food to fill an emotional hole. And so there are groups that you can join. The I Am group is a group where you get a lot of my lives, and I focus and do one-to-ones. There's life coaching one-to-ones on Zoom. If you live local to me, then we can see each other. And what you would get in 1 hour with me, because I work quite quickly and ask the questions for you to make sense of whatever topic you have to deal with. So the inner child, it excites me, because once you know how to connect to that inner child within and start learning to be your own best friend and start listening to what the child wants as well as you, the adult, as you are now, the connection is phenomenal. So you start listening to how you feel about things. You start listening to what makes you tick. You can find out what age you are when there's a trauma. You can find out, for instance, say you want to learn to drive a car and you're scared. That's okay, it's new. It can be exciting and it can be scary. It can be a bit of both. And then you come up to your test, you think you've learned everything, you feel quite confident, and you go to do your driving test. You get behind the car, the instructor, male or female, says, right. And there's a tone with that voice. If you've been brought up with authority and you do what you're told, then in your survival mode, you'll probably go, and it's like a rabbit in the headlights. You freeze. You get a mental block because the inner child's connected, and it's like asking a child to drive the car. So that is a simple example of why you might do very well in your written work. You're ready for the exam, and when you sit there with the paper, your mind goes a blank because there's a fear, which is from our survival mode, that we click into. So let's look at survival mode. Now, imagine like an animal. We have a survival mode. We attack if we feel threatened. We retreat if we are scared, and we might freeze like a rabbit in the headlights. And that means you don't know what to do. So all these things are happening without our awareness. And I want to take you to a place of awareness and teach you how to learn how this all works so that you can be aware and tell that child inside it's okay. If you go to the child often and you're scared and you get stuck and your mind goes a blank, then I know that you need to do some inner child work, because what's happening there is the child is stuck, and then we go to what shall I do, and that what shall I do goes to the programming, and in the programming you might hear, oh, you're not good, you're not going to be able to do this, or you might hear somebody saying, no, focus. You might hear somebody telling you you're stupid, or you might find someone that says, right, let's pull yourself together, snap out of this. So all of those different programs, all of those different controls, commands are in charge of you in whatever you're doing in life. And so if you were traumatized or had certain programming as you were growing up, then you're going to become that. You might as well be 10 years of age or 8 years of age in an adult body with virtually no choices. Again, this is valuable information. So where are you up to in life? Do you find when you go for a job interview that you are really scared before you go? Are you excited? When you sit down and people start asking you questions, how do you respond? Are you a reactor to the way people are? Or are you able to stay focused in the moment and be aware? If you're able to do that, that's a great place to be. And if people ask you a question, are you able to say, I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you rephrase it? Or would you feel foolish? And would the voice in your head say, oh, you can't do this, you're rubbish? Can you see? Can you remotely see what I'm saying? So the inner child work that I want to focus on is something that is, I'm just aware of my own programming at the moment. My mind's been distracted by a beautiful bird singing outside. So I can tell you straight away that that took my attention, and this is live. I wonder if you can hear that. And because this is live, I have choices, and I chose to share that with you, which tells you I'm a very real person. I like sharing. And I can then bring myself back to the job in hand, which is I'm live on YouTube and I'm talking to you. That's you personally, if you're listening to this. And what I'd love you to learn is how to be able to go through life being aware of the beauty around you, knowing that life is a precious journey and that we can live in the moment instead of living in our head, worrying. So much to share with you, and I'm looking forward to the months that you join me here on YouTube and we can travel on this journey for a short time. So what do you feel you need to learn? If everything's great in your world and you know that you are on the path from a spiritual perspective, unconditional love, where you know you're part of the universe, this earth, that we are not separate, that we are unconditional love, and we'll love ourselves, we go through life, and we have to make the choices and not depend on other people for our health and our sense of worth. So where are you up to? I talk a lot about relationships, and people instantly assume, and I've been told this, that when I talk about relationships, they go straight to their relationship with their male or female partner. Excuse me, a drink of water is required. Oh, that was lovely. So when I talk about relationships, the relationships are with yourself. What's your relationship like with yourself? Are you kind to yourself? Do you think that you're a wonderful person? Are you very cruel, very hard on yourself? What's your relationship like with the weather? When you pull the blinds up or open the curtains, do you say to yourself, oh no, it's another wet day, another day, miserable day? And before you say, why would you do that? I was brought up on that. And when I look back, it's as though I was a different person. Your relationship with your work, your relationship with people, your relationship with everything in life. What is your relationship like? And what picture do you paint of yourself every time you open your mouth? So this next 15 minutes is going to be dedicated to what are your relationships like? What's your relationship with work? Do you wake up, are you happy to go to work? Or do you go to work solely for the money? When you get to work, is it a feeling of joy? Is it a comfortable feeling? Or do you not want to be there? And so are you grumpy? Are you just giving half of yourself to a job? You know, instead of trying to be perfect in the human condition with all this programming going off, let's just try and be the best version of ourselves we can be. And the best version of yourself and myself is to continue to look inside for the answers, to take 100% responsibility for what you say and do, and you put yourself first. If you're on an aeroplane, you're told we're told, make sure you put your mask on first before you think of anybody else. Because that's the only way you can be there for other people, is to put yourself first. So that's really, really an important thing to remember. So once you put yourself first and you're able to breathe, you can look around and see if there's anybody that needs support, help, reassurance. And so that's what we have to do in life. Or depending on the religion you've been brought up with, and that's not an issue for me. There's no issues, there's no judgment in anything. I'm just very factual from a place of love. So if you've been told to not be selfish, that you must put other people first, then you've been told a lie. I'll say that again. You've been told a lie. And if you're living your life thinking that you have to put everybody else before your own needs, then I want to tell you that that was not healthy, and it is not the way forward. And looking after yourself from a place of love is a very selfless thing. Because once you have put yourself first and you are coming from a place of love, then that's how you can be with other people. If you're forever putting other people first, that's neglecting your own needs and wants. You will end up feeling very confused, maybe resentful. You will end up wondering what's happening. And like myself, you'll end up, I certainly ended up, it was a nervous breakdown, because I tried to be there for everybody. Everybody was more important than me. I didn't realise at the time. I understand it now. And I wanted people to like me. I didn't want them to abandon me. I didn't want to feel the feeling of rejection, which is the most awful feeling in the world, along with feeling helpless and hopeless. And so I'd do whatever I could for everyone else, because I am a kind person. We all are. And in the end, there were so many hats I was wearing. I ended up just, everything in me just cried, no, no, no. And so you can do part of that, all of that. I became a professional people pleaser. That was the character within me. So that I wanted to please people, because if then I pleased them, they would be nice to me. And at least I would feel as though I was valued. You see, I'm one of 11 children, and as a child, in between two brothers, the youngest girl with one younger brother, I was always the middle of three. And my brother, a little bit older, didn't want to be bothered with me. I understand all this, there's no blame. My youngest brother got more attention. So there I was, trying to strive to get attention. And the only way I could get attention in that time and space with what I knew was when they played football, I'd go and get the ball for them. So at least I wasn't invisible. And at least they gave me a little bit of attention. And so if you grow up in life always wanting to please, then you are putting other people before yourself. What about your needs? How are you going to thrive? How are you going to succeed? How are you going to grow? Okay? And how did I grow? I can only use myself as an example. I grew into a young lady who always thought we were all the same, that you cared for other people. You cared about what they were doing. Everybody cared about everyone else. That's how I thought. And so I was so confused when I realised, it was such a shock when I realised that not everyone cares. Not everyone wants to be there for other people. In fact, very few people do. And the reason that people are there for others is because they want something from other people. So that's the next little story. How it was for me was people might say, "Oh, hi Sue," or phone me, and I'd say, "Hi, how are you?" And I'd say, "Oh, I'm good, thanks. How are you?" That was it. The reason they'd phoned was they wanted something from me. They wanted me to tell me how I was, so I'd be there to help them and support them. Not for a second thinking for any other reason, not thinking they didn't like me, not thinking that I was being used. And if this happens enough times a day, and you think you're helping people, that makes you feel good. It's a nice feeling to help people. Then you end up drained, and who's helping you? You're not, because you're so busy looking after everyone else. And so, where do you fit in this part of the talk? If you're still interested, and if you want to go on the self-improvement, self-awareness, if you want to be content and still care about other people, then you have to put yourself first. There's no way around it. There is no way around it. You have to put yourself first. And that little spark of energy that we're given when we come to this universe, that unconditional love I call it the soul, in the soul, is there to guide you through life. And what happens is we stop listening to that, our intuition, our caring of ourselves, and we go into the place of programming, because then we start thinking about other people. And then we start listening to we're naughty, we're bad. It's not true. We've gone into self-doubt. So the idea is to come back from that, focus on this energy, this total unconditional loving energy, which is your birthright. And then learn to live your life from that place. And very quickly, you'll watch your mind start trying to drag you. It's called the ego, because it's full of fear. And the ego's place is there just to be fed, and you are then fed by fear. So the two places in life, I will explain that. There's two places we can live our life, or go in and out of both. One is this place of unconditional love, and pure love means that you're looking after yourself, and then you can be like that with other people. And you learn to say no. You learn to make choices. You learn to take control of your life. And if you go into the place of programming, very quickly people can manipulate you out of guilt, so that you'll do as they want you to, because you've been brought up on blame, shame, guilt, control, punishment, fear. And that's so that you would do as you were told when you were little. I'm not suggesting that was those people were awful. I'm suggesting that was the language we were brought up on, the blame, shame language. So how can we begin this journey of self-awareness? First and foremost, ask yourself, am I living my true life? Am I always saying sorry? Even if it's somebody else that bumped into me, did I say sorry? So the sorry and the fear and the blame, shame and the shoulds and the can'ts and the buts, they were all in this conditioned way of being. And I've spent a long time creating a new language, to me, a new language which was to let go of the words that fed the fear and the blame, that dropped me into irrational guilt, irrational fear, and inferiority. That complex was always there, so people could always manipulate me. And I thought they liked me. I thought it was lovely that I would do things for people. And then they said thank you and they were grateful. And I really thought that was how that was life. And so some people project that unconditional love onto something out there. They call it God. They call it Allah. They call it by a name. And then some people project this inner self, this beautiful soul, and say, right, only God can save me. And they go to the Bible. There's other books that people go to in spirituality and in religion. And I've been through all these stages. And whatever you're doing, that is wonderful. If you can truly say to yourself that I am the light, I have that light, I have that love inside of me, and now you can be a messenger. Not putting somebody else first and therefore neglecting the precious gift of life for yourself. And therefore, if you say, yes, I'm doing God's work, is that God coming from a place of pure love? I speak of Jesus. I speak as Jesus as a man who walked this earth. And so I try and understand what that means, and I've worked diligently to understand, because that man walked this earth as a human being, as we are human beings in this human condition. And so if you believe in God, if you believe that somebody created us, or you believe in the energy of Mother Earth, whatever you believe, can you truly say that that is pure love? Or is it that you have to be scared of being punished, that you're going to be judged, that you must fear the Lord your God with all your... And I've been through all this. And this unconditional love is unconditional. So we're forgiven. And in the end, you do things that you know are with love. You learn from all your lessons in life and the mistakes that we learn from them quicker than anything. We watch when we actually do things that are a bit manipulative and self-centered. Self-centered means we're not thinking about other people. And that's that position that we've lived our life in. And the more you learn, the more you can ask yourself, am I doing this with the intention of love? How do I present myself to the world? And more you can ask questions. You don't have to believe a word I'm saying. I'm asking you to find out who you are and look at your intention with everything you do. Is it coming from a place of love? And people say, oh, I love the Lord thy God with all your heart and with all your soul. Well, most people don't even like themselves. They're always complaining. We've all done it. We still do. We're human beings. And we say we don't like this part of ourselves and we don't like that. We've become critical. We've become judgmental of ourselves. And it's impossible not to do that with other people. Whereas if you can learn about, if you've been brought up on criticism, blame and shame and humiliation as a child, and you've taken it on board and you've been punished and you think I mustn't ever do anything naughty again because of the fear of being, that awful feeling of not being liked or wanted or accepted or loved. If you've been brought up on that, the hardest thing of all is to understand that you've been listening when you believe you can't do this, you can't sing, you can't cope. That is not true. That's the story you're telling yourself from the programming. And again, it's not blaming. You can if you want, that's up to you. Or you can try and accept and understand that that's the language of fear. It's with conditions. And there's a better way of living, which is to be able to be your own best friend, to reconnect. Yes, that takes time. I can teach you how to do that. To learn how to reconnect to that child inside that you've neglected because you've been busy looking after other people. And don't expect that child to think you're wonderful, the inner child, when you connect to her or him. When I understood what I'm actually saying to you, and I started looking for my inner child, just lying still quietly on the bed on my own, just saying I'd like to connect to my inner child. Isn't quite that simple. However, mine was really difficult because nobody had told me. I had no idea what to do or how to do it. And when I found my inner child, and I don't tell fibs, this is what actually happened. Lying on the bed, I'm on my own, and I'm quietly listening and trying to find this still voice inside, which is from love, not fear. Could always find this voice continually telling me off and telling me all sorts of things. And sometimes I wouldn't be a very pleasant person to be around because I'd be angry and I'd be protecting myself when I felt threatened in the survival mode. And so once I got in touch with this little girl, this figure, I can describe it exactly. She was black from head to toe, like she'd been down the coal mine, covered in black, soot, facially, dirty. She had rags on, which were just black clothes. She was in a black hole, a cave. That's the only way I can describe it. And she had got a fork in her hand, and the fork had 3 prongs on it and 3 red bits on the top of the black fork. And she just was digging at me with that, poking. There was a tail on her, sort of, and on the end of the tail was red. And then she had 2 red things here, like the devil itself, a demon. And I said, oh, okay, hi. And all that figure was doing was just prodding, protecting. I said, it's okay. I'm never going to let you go. I know you're angry with me, and I understand. I didn't know. I won't ever let you down again. I won't leave you. So now try and imagine, this is 3 days later, when I wasn't busy. I was doing coaching then. I was doing Shoreway slimming work. And I'd say, hi, prod. What an angry young girl. And then on the 3rd day, because I was counting it, logging it, I said, hi, how are you? And this figure went to prod. And instead of doing that, she sat back down on what I can only describe as a rock. Again, black, dark. And she went, and I said, it's really hard, isn't it? It's hard being that angry. It's hard having to protect and defend yourself all the time. I'm never going to leave you. I love you. Well, then it was a bit of a start. So those days I can remember so vividly. I've just explained and described it to you. And then it was a series. I don't remember every step of the way until eventually there was a trust. And then that's where the journey for me began, to always put her first. And if I didn't know how I was feeling or what role I was playing when I was with other people, I had to learn by meditation to understand, why are you doing this, Sue? What role are you playing? When yet again somebody says, will you do so-and-so for me? And I found myself saying, yes, of course I will, because I didn't know how to say no. Now that's not true, because if I was saying yes to other people, then the same for you. You're saying no to this self. So I learned how to put together a talk, and and how to say no and how to work with that. So that's where some of the little groups you can join come from. They come from the inner work, the help I've got elsewhere. You can only do the work yourself. Nobody can do it for you. And therefore, there's lots of things I can support you and give you ideas and tools that you can put in your toolbox or make up in your makeup bag to learn how to do life, how to get to the place where you're in awareness, where as I'm sat here, I'm talking with my hands, so I'm in the present moment. When I go to one side, it might be going to the past. When I go to the other side, I might go to the future. Now, that's NLP. I've got a dear friend who is, they're called Masters, and she is amazing. So there are lots of people out there that can actually support you and teach you methods and learn how to look after yourself. So for the next 10 minutes, and then this live is finished, and I would urge you to look back on it with a book that you like the feel of, a book that you enjoy. And this book becomes your journal. It's called a diary, call it what you will. You have your own language. In this book, you begin the journey which you have to go to the past, to be in the moment, and as a coach, I'll take you forward. And these are all things for you to learn along the way. So you write in your journal, what is it that the journal will do for you? It's a book where you say to yourself, okay, I've had enough. My life's not working. I know I feel envious, resentful. I know I feel bitter. I know I feel jealous. They're all different, all different feelings or emotions. I feel sad. I feel depressed. There's a reason for all this. You might think you're depressed, and I might say, are you sure that you're not distressed? And so we've got work to do, and you have to do your own work. No one can do it for you. You can appreciate that for a while you have somebody on the journey. And that's why I love the work I do. I know that people who come to me, they are ready to create whatever it is they desire. From a place of love, they have to look at why they do what they do and look at what stops them moving forward. That's you. So, what's your life like? You've got your journal. I'll refer to this again. You've got a nice pen. Keep the pen with the journal. And in this journal, you're going to now write your story to your younger self at different stages. We're going to find out why you're stuck, why it is that you're not moving forward, and you can learn how to address that. It may be painful sometimes. Well, that's why you're a workaholic. That's why you eat when you're not hungry. That's why you say yes when you want to say no, because you don't want to face the pain of something that happened when you decided you must never risk upsetting people, or you've learned that you never ever want to get angry because you're scared of your own anger. If you're nice, so nice that anybody can do what they will with you, then that's caring. It's called too much. I suggest it's not caring enough about yourself. So there's your journal, and I would like you to just use the first page and write yourself a little letter. And the letter is in the form of a question. So you put your pen in your writing hand, the hand you use the most, and you ask yourself a question. It can be whatever question you choose. I'm not going to do this for you. If you want to work with me, we can do that. Then, like I say, go to the website, go to the shop. If you want to work with me when I do my free lives, then there is quite a lot we can do together in that way. So you write yourself a question. Now put your pen in the other hand and answer it. And because it's harder to write in the not so used hand, you cut out this middleman called the mind. And you're asking your child something, pen in the other hand, and then you focus on the answer. So that's one thing that you can start doing as your homework. And if you feel you need help, there's lots of help out there. If you do feel completely alone inside it because you haven't connected to this important part of who you are out of fear. And so if you write the date, the year, and then the day, and just write a little diary to yourself, even if you've not found the child, as you're finding her, and start writing little things in the diary and keep a record of when you get upset and how you deal with it. Are you a reactor to other people's behaviour? Do you need to be liked? Are you in a place where you couldn't care less what people think? Are you lonely? Where are you up to in the journey? And I'm excited. Just keep checking the clock because it goes so quickly. The time does. I'm excited because I know what you will gain if you start this journey. You can do what you're doing now, do the same, act the same, and the same thing will happen and get the same result. You can be a people pleaser, feel perfectly comfortable with that. That's absolutely your choice. And like I say, you don't have to believe a word any of us say on here or any time. Find out for yourself. Be curious. Find the imagination of the child inside, which is the most beautiful thing, whilst being an adult, being aware, being in the moment, and listening to the body. Meditation's great. I'll do a meditation with you. Learning to find that space and place, that still, small voice. And it'll be small voice instead of the big voice that will be telling you, oh, I can't meditate. You see, straight away, I can't. What does that word mean? And I'm going to finish on this because there's lots of words that we need to stop using and disconnect and then reconnect with a word of love, this unconditional love. So I can't. What does that mean? So somebody might come to me in Shoreway and they might say to me, oh, I've tried that many diets. I want to lose weight. I really am ready. I'll do whatever it takes. And that person means it from this ego state, really means it. And then out comes the word but. Now, all of that motivation within the self has now been cancelled. And what comes next is what the observer in you, the brain, this amazing body, the nerve, every part of it is listening. Because this internal dialogue, this soul, this beautiful unconditional love, this connecting to the universe, the energy wants you to have what it is you want to have a wonderful experience in the human condition. So you have got to learn to start knowing how to ask for those needs to be met. And people say, oh, I don't need you. I don't need anybody. We need love. And once we're loving ourselves And then we can get in touch with the reality. And the reality is this: without food, you would die. So sometimes you have a feeling of hunger. Is it hunger, or is it just an addiction? And so all of those things are things for you to learn about. And you do need water. Without water, you wouldn't be able to survive. We wouldn't be able to survive. We can certainly do without food for quite a while. I'm suggesting we have the food of love to live our lives. Let's have the living water of pure, unconditional love. Let's learn to listen to the sensations in the body and ask ourselves the questions that I would teach you before you go to eat because somebody's upset you, before you go to work so you don't have to connect to that part of you that feels helpless and sad. This is the most exciting journey, this journey of life. People say, oh, you only live once. Not true. You only are born once to this earth. You die once to this earth. The rest in between is living. So how are you living each day? Are you living, waiting, wondering, arguing, falling out, defending, attacking? Or are you going to find out once and for all what makes you tick from a place of love? It's there, it's the nugget, it takes us through life. And it's infinitely easier and it's so beautiful because then you can love other people as you love yourself. And I promise you'll look back and be so happy. So Sue Gaskell Barlow asking you to join me and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Facebook, which is Sue's University of Life. Subscribe and ring the bell. And Sue Gaskell is my profile, my ordinary Facebook is Sue Gaskell. And I'm also under the name of Sue Gaskell Barlow. They're all me. And I wish you well. I send you so much love. And this is what I say. May love be your constant companion and wisdom be your guide. I love you. And if nobody's told you today you're lovable, then I'm telling you, you're amazing. Bye for now. Bye-bye.